And it's important to state for everybody to understand, Kamala Harris is going to try to distance herself from Joe Biden's economic record. The problem is, like Susan Rice said the other day, she is intricate. She was right there crafting the economic policy of the Biden administration that now she's trying to walk away from. She cannot. His successes and failures are hers.
Congressman Byron Donalds yesterday on the Fox Business Channel talking about the economy under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And, now they're lying about it, as you might expect. They get to lie all over the place because the Jim Sciuttos and Jake Tappers of the world, the Dana Bashes, the Washington Post, they carry the lie for them. Carry it forward. It's kind of like paying it forward, but it's the big lie. The big lie. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Groceries under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are up 22.2%. Groceries. Airfare is up 32.8%. This one took me by surprise. Automobile insurance, car insurance, is up 54% just in 3.5 years under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Auto insurance up 54%. Isn't that amazing? And she's going around telling us, hey, isn't this great? Yeah, this is great. I come for the strudel. It's wonderful. Couldn't be better. All right? Auto insurance up 54%. I got to tell you. And groceries, 22.2, airfare, 38. Rent, how about this? Rent in America is up 21.6% under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And all that's fine. That's just fine because, Democrats, that's the thing. Boy, oh boy, I'm telling you. Gasoline was $2.39. It was really down around $2.11 for a while. Now it's $3.44 after peaking out over $5 a gallon. But never mind that. Inflation peaked at 9.1% in June of 2022 under Joe Biden. And now it's only more than twice what it was on Inauguration Day. Now inflation is 3%, and it was 1.4% on Inauguration Day when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were sworn in. So it's still double inflation is what it was on Inauguration Day, but they did drive it up to 9.1%. So they look at this and say, hey, look, inflation's down. Yeah. First, you drive the murder rate up to 1,000%. And then when the murder rate is down to 800%, you say, hey, look, murder's declining. Yeah, sure. And inflation's down too. Isn't that great? And they literally are taking a victory lap around the big lie. The big lie. It is such a big lie. Boy, oh boy. And the left-wingers at Axios, kind of an interesting story in Axios. They wrote that Vice President Kamala Harris, hoping to distance herself, is what Byron Donalds was just talking about. Vice President Kamala Harris, hoping to distance herself from President Biden's unpopularity on the economy, plans a new focus on the middle class worries and woes. Harris won't say it this bluntly in public, Axios wrote, but her advisors do so privately. She wants to break with Biden on issues on which he's unpopular. Well, it is politics, after all. First up, rising prices. Now, they're talking to Axios, they're pals, they're dating, a little rub-a-dub-dub. Harris doesn't want to be completely defined by the Biden-Harris record. Yeah, I bet she doesn't. So that means they're going to lie a lot. They're going to lie, going to invent stuff. They're going to steal stuff from President Trump that is popular because it makes sense and it's not insane, but never mind all of that. Man, oh man. Yeah, and I think Byron Donalds just mentioned Susan Rice, right, from the Obama White House. Yeah, and honestly, Susan Rice is saying that Kamala Harris was the integral architect of the Biden agenda. Integral, indispensable, essential, architect of the Biden agenda. Now, Susan Rice said that. She lies all the time because she is a little liar. She's not a big liar because she's kind of little, but her lies are big. And she's a big liar. And they're lying about that. And they're going to say the economy is great. And then when it's proved that it's not great, they'll say, well, she had nothing to do with the economy, because they talk out of both sides of their mouths at the same time all day, every day. Isn't that amazing stuff? Yes, it is. I am telling you. Let me tell you. Just crazy. Did you see the nice lady? There was a focus group that was done in Philadelphia of black voters, African-American voters in Philadelphia. And a woman who is a paralegal was talking to the cameras, part of the focus group, and she literally started crying about the state of the economy, and she said she blamed the federal government, and that means Biden and Harris. And this poor woman was crying during the focus group, saying, that you can't survive in this economy. She's a paralegal, and she's talking about, what about people that live from paycheck to paycheck? Unlike me, she's thinking about people who are not as well off as she, and she was very, very upset about the state of the economy. African-American woman, probably in her 60s.
How hard has inflation hit you?
It hit me hard. It's hitting me hard.
Who do you blame for it?
I blame the federal government at this point. If a working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5, imagine a mother living on food stamps. Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children.
She's crying.
They're killing us without killing us.
They're killing us without killing us.
If you understand that. They're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves. It's either feed my child or how about feed my children and I don't, but I have to go work.
More than 20% of Americans last year who pay rent for a place to live, more than 20% last year report that they had to skip meals last year in order to make ends meet. And in Washington, they could care less. They don't care at all. The news media, the most corrupt institution in America, doesn't give a flying hoot because they must defeat Trump. That's the role of our news media. Remarkable stuff. So that was a focus group in Philadelphia, and it's a clip that we used on my Newsmax show last night. Grabbed that from the Newsmax show, The Right Squad, at 10 p.m. Eastern. Now, amazing stuff, and they just lie and lie because they get away with it because of our dirty, rotten news media. Yes, we do. Remarkable stuff. Now, we finished our President Trump from North Carolina on the economy. Okay, I apologize. I thought we had gotten through all. President Trump, North Carolina yesterday, speechifying on the economy.
By repealing the Biden-Harris regulatory onslaught, we can save an estimated $20,000. And you're talking about a tremendous amount, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year just in savings. So to get to economic relief to workers and families, we will make additional tax cuts. That's what gave us the great economy. We'll make tax cuts additionally. We'll make them permanent.
Wow, permanent tax cuts, reducing taxes, no taxes on Social Security, no taxes on income earned by way of tips. Crazy man, crazy. How can that even be? More money in your pocket since you earned it and everything. Madness. It's madness. We were talking yesterday at Newsmax. We were having a big conversation. I'm not sure exactly how we got here, but we were talking about Democrats and socialism and how they promise utopia, and usually it ends up in Jonestown. The massacre in Jonestown, Guyana, decades ago, where the Democrats out of the Bay Area, Oakland and San Francisco, led by Jim Jones, the People's Temple, and they were building a socialist utopia in Oakland, which is a hard thing to do because the Democrats are all shooting everybody there. Remarkable stuff. But they ended up fleeing Oakland and the Bay Area for Guyana in South America, where they set up camp in the jungle, and they were creating a socialist utopia. And then a Democrat member of Congress from the Bay Area heard that it wasn't going very well there, so he took a kind of a junket down there to go see what was going on with his about 1,000 constituents that fled the Bay Area, and moved with Jim Jones and the People's Temple to Guyana. This Congressman Leo Ryan went down there, and he was shot and killed by the utopianists, the socialists that were building a socialist paradise in the jungles of Guyana. And they shot and killed him, and they killed other people. An NBC News crew was shot up. I used to know one of the members of that news crew who was shot but survived. And then more than 900 of them lined up to drink the Kool-Aid. So where they're drinking the Kool-Aid phrase comes from, right? And more than 900 of them died in the jungle. And it was all out of Oakland and the Bay Area, San Francisco. And it was all out of a desire to build a socialist utopia. Because, that's socialism, and it always ends the same way, no matter how you slice it, always ends the same way, with everybody dead and mass graves, because, this that doesn't work out the way that the left always says it's going to work out. It's never worked out the way America works out really well, the United States. Free market capitalism, freedom, but not these socialist utopianists. Pipe dreams. They're pipe dreams because you smoke a pipe and then you have a dream. That was in 1978, and more than 900 liberals from the Bay Area, almost all black, by the way, even though Jim Jones was white, he was going to liberate with socialism. And it turns out the same way every time. It really does. Michael, let's take see, I slipped into Jonestown again. It's funny. And then my friend Brian texted me about Jonestown this morning. I'm sorry. It was Jeff that texted me about Jonestown this morning. I'm like, wow, Jonestown again. We were just talking about Jonestown yesterday. Isn't that wacky? Let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Peter calling from McLean, Virginia. Pedro, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
So good to speak with you again, Chris. Thank you for taking the call.
You bet.
Hope your summer's going well.
Yes,
Listen,
sir.
appreciate you pointing out the Democrats' court packing scheme at the Supreme Court level, but I encourage yourself and your listeners to pay very careful attention to what's happening with the federal judiciary appointments. As you know, federal judges are appointed for a lifetime. And it used to be that a home state senator would offer a slate of candidates for the White House to consider when there was a federal judiciary opening, even if that senator was from the other party. And if the White House nominated somebody that senator didn't like, they would do something called a pocket veto. They would not advance that judge for consideration to the Senate Legislative Committee. What the Democrats did was they changed that. The White House is just directly choosing people from within the states and nominating them for the federal bench, and they're getting them through. The Democrats vote in lockstep on the Senate committee, on the Senate Judiciary Committee, and they're putting these people onto the federal bench. The reason this is so dangerous is you're going to very soon have, well, if you remember the first 10 months of the first Trump administration, a federal judge in Hawaii, who was a friend of Obama's from Harvard Law School, put a stay on one of Trump's immigration policies. It ultimately got overruled once it was appealed to a higher court. But for that period of time, for that 10 months that the stay was in place, the policy stayed still. Now, you can have 70% of the American people that want to reform immigration. But if one of these judges decides they don't like it, they can put a stay on it until such time as it can be appealed to a higher court. And if you're in the Ninth Circuit Court or some of the other more liberal places, you may have to wait until it gets all the way to the Supreme Court in order to overrule that stay. Mm-hmm. And so, the danger here is these people could be on the bench for 25 and 30 years. I encourage people to pay careful attention to what's going on. You can watch Senator Kennedy, Senator Cruz, Mike Lee, Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton are all on that committee, and they're asking these folks questions.
Right.
But, Chris, they are pumping cancer into the federal court system, and it is going to be with us for years.
Yeah.
And part of the reason they hate Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, the left hates him, is because he's dealing with that now, and he's trying to reform the court system. But you don't get there by accident. This has been an effort, your discussion about the Supreme Court prompted my memory on this. This has been an effort to subvert the judiciary of the United States, the legal system of the United States, not just at the Supreme Court level, but at the federal judiciary all the way down.
I'm nodding. I'm nodding. Dangerous. Yeah, you're 100% right, Peter. And Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, is slipping everybody through. And you're right that Hawley and Ted Cruz and a few others are asking questions of these people about their radicalism. The news media is burying the stories overwhelmingly, but you can find some of them online, and they're asked questions about the Constitution, about the law, and they don't know anything. They're just radical left-wingers. And I started this, Peter, talking about this radical environmental group that is grooming radical environmentalists to go onto the federal bench to take away property rights and things, because the left is here. These people are not liberals. This is the left. They're as good as commies. There's no doubt about it. Peter, thank you for the call. Good stuff, smart stuff. Thank you. You know that the best-selling Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses Oxy technology to quickly destroy a lot of different viruses and mold spores and odors in your home and your office. Thousands of 5-star reviews online. People love the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Any nasty smell vanishes in just a few seconds. We're talking about cigarette smoke and garbage cans and even dirty diapers. Even left-wing protesters. The powerful thunderstorm sends out O3 molecules that go beneath furniture and behind furniture to help destroy odors. Nothing can hide from the thunderstorm. And you don't have to buy these filters over and over again and replace them on a schedule and mail away and keep them in stock. No. These are self-contained units. You can hold one in your hand just like this. And right now, because you hang with me, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You're going to get 3 units for under $200. Put one in your basement, your teenager's room, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3 to save $200. That's EdenPureDeals.com, and the discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. All right, a lot more coming up because the crazy people are on the loose. An arrest or multiple arrests made in the drug overdose death of actor Matthew Perry. As I mentioned, the headlines vary. Arrest made, singular, over the death of the actor Matthew Perry, California police say. That's The Guardian out of the United Kingdom. The BBC out of the United Kingdom has plural. Arrests made over the Matthew Perry death, U.S. media. They love their colons. So I'm not sure if one person has been arrested or more than one person has been arrested, but NBC fake news with perhaps the latest right through on this. Multiple people charged, which is different than being arrested. Multiple people charged in connection with overdose death of actor Matthew Perry. Of course, there were more than 100,000 fatal drug overdoses last year. Matthew Perry, who was on a TV show called Friends and made a couple of movies that I think didn't get a lot of attention, but seemed like a more or less perfectly normal person, I guess. Multiple people charged in connection with overdose death of Matthew Perry, having to do with the drug ketamine. Ketamine. Do you do a lot of ketamine, Michael? Just a little? Not a lot of ketamine? Jasmine, a lot of ketamine in your life? No, I don't think so. Not a lot of ketamine uses around here. But at least one individual was arrested in Southern California on Thursday. That's today. And it's early out there now, too, in connection with Perry's death last year, which was attributed to the acute effects of ketamine. and I believe he was in a hot tub because it's California and everybody's in a hot tub all the time. They sleep in hot tubs, they work in hot tubs. But NBC News says multiple people have been charged in connection with the accidental overdose death of actor Matthew Perry, law enforcement sources told NBC Fake News on Thursday. Matthew Perry, who was 54 years old, was found face down in the heated end of a pool at his Pacific Palisades home October 28th of 2023. So that's less than a year ago, of course. Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office attributed his death to the acute effects of ketamine, an anesthetic with psychedelic properties. Psychedelic properties, of course, because, got to tune in to tune out to turn on or something like that. And at least one person was arrested in Southern California early Thursday, the sources said. Federal prosecutors are expected to unseal an indictment later in the day, detailing the allegations against that individual and the others. Los Angeles police said in May that they were working with federal authorities to investigate the source of the ketamine Perry had consumed. Now, again, I don't know nothing about no ketamine, but apparently it's one of those things. And he's been interviewed. While he was living, he was interviewed about it, and he talked about how he really was in a comfort zone with ketamine, this drug. Ketamine has been a popular party drug for decades, NBC News says, at least at NBC News headquarters in New York. In recent years, it has shown promise as an alternative treatment for depression, and I believe that's why he was taking ketamine as a treatment for depression and then, face down. A growing number of clinics offer ketamine as an infusion or injection for a wide variety of mental health problems. I think it's best to avoid mental health problems in the first place. That's the shortcut, I think. Just, remember normal. Be normal. Perry has been undergoing ketamine infusion therapy to treat depression and anxiety, but his last session took place more than a week prior to his death. That's not very long. The medical examiner noted that the ketamine in Perry's system could not be from that infusion therapy, given its short half-life. So in any case, the ketamine levels in his body very high, equivalent to the amount used with general anesthetic during surgery, which is probably a lot, according to the medical examiner. But in any case, at least one arrest, and apparently more people looking at big trouble in this case of Matthew Perry from the TV show Friends. So little showbiz news. Again, he seemed like a perfectly, I don't recall him being a crazy person out there, but depression and drugs and California, that's a potent hat trick of a combination, to be certain. Boy, oh boy. Also, we did a fun story on Newsmax last night on my television show at 10 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, on an interesting new phenomenon taking place. A lot of young women in the United States of America, more and more women, are choosing not to go to college, your traditional four-year college or even two-year college, but to go to trade schools and to learn how to be plumbers and welders and, work with your hands and make a very good living and a solid living and can't be switched on and off like so many other types of jobs. But never minding that, the great many women that are going blue collar are now also veering, according to the polls, toward Trump and leaning Republican, which is kind of an amazing story. I've got to say, lots and lots of young women going into the trades more than ever before. And what happens is, you're working for a living and you're out there and you're using your hands, you're driving a van or a truck and you're doing jobs. And now more and more, these women who are choosing a blue-collar life are polling for Trump. Isn't that fascinating? As it should be, of course. That would be perfectly normal. But women ditching college and the high cost and student debt and all of that stuff, and instead choosing vocational schools, jobs where you use your hands, electricians and plumbers and mechanics. And we played a soundbite from My Cousin Vinny, where Mona Lisa Vito, talked about how she does, brake relinings and tune-ups and trannies. Trannies, see, and I said on the show last night, trannies, this movie's old enough where trannies actually referred to transmissions underneath automobiles that needed repair, and not to transgender Democrats dressing like their grandmothers because they're so mentally ill, the Democrats. But it is a very interesting development. And, union leadership always goes Democrat because they're corrupt and they have all this money to buy politicians, and then, they get free stuff and trips to the White House and things like that, but they don't care about the rank and file people in the union members that are paying the union dues, who the union leadership should represent, but they don't. They instead get in bed with the left wing, with the Democrat Party, and that doesn't make things better. But it's a fascinating development, I've got to say. Kind of a fun story about blue-collar women not going with the union leadership who are backing Democrats always because corruption and money in politics and money in unions, it's gangsterism. I think it was better when the mafia ran the unions. Now the left runs the unions. Not as good. Let's go to Jimmy Hoffa and see what he thinks about this, because amazing stuff. Yeah, and there was actually an event on CNN where CNN had blue collar Americans, and they were doing a focus group, CNN. Put up your hands if you're supporting President Trump, and all these union and particular women, the hands go up, and CNN, with the CNN anchors, Democrats, were slack-jawed. They couldn't believe what they were witnessing. How can this be? Yes, sir. Yeah. Also, you may have missed this, but the New York Times reporting they got a hold of State Department documents. I talked about it a bit yesterday on the big radio broadcast as well. But State Department documents make it clear that Hunter Biden, while not registered as a foreign agent, was lobbying the U.S. ambassador to Italy under the Obama-Biden administration for help getting Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company, a deal in Italy. And we were lied to about it by Joe Biden and by the news media, by the Democrats, big and small. We were lied to about it and lied to, oh, no, he's not lobbying, and he's not using his family name, and he's not looking for government help, and he's not violating the FARA Act, Foreign Agents Registration Act. And all of that were all lies. All of everything I just said, Democrat lies, Democrat Party lies. I was telling you the truth at the time, what was going on, that Joe Biden's name was being used by the crackhead stripper knocker-upper son, the worst son. It was like the first son, but he's the worst son. And he was using the family name and lobbying the U.S. ambassador to Italy, which is a really great job to have under Barack Obama, though. And here's Hunter Biden. Hey, a little help over here. I need some help. I got a client. It's a Burisma gas company. They need help in Italy. And so he's using the Biden family name and not registering as a foreign agent. Now, I believe 5 or 6 people in the Trump administration were brought up on charges of violating FARA, right? The Foreign Agents Registration Act. And I know one had to spend $2.5 million on legal expenses to stay out of prison because the Democrats are trying to put them all in prison, which is what communists do, like in Ukraine with political enemies and in Putin's Russia with political enemies. But never mind all of that. And the New York Times had one line buried in their story yesterday that the courts have already decided, he's still Hunter Biden looking at charges for his gun issues. And they've said, we're not going to charge him with FARA violations. He's guilty as hell of violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And they just spent millions and millions of dollars trying to put a bunch of Trump administration people in prison for violating FARA. And now we see, plain as day, State Department documents, Hunter Biden violating FARA. He's not a registered foreign agent. He's acting as a foreign agent. He's using the Biden family name, lobbying government officials, the American ambassador to Italy, to get things done for his pals. And there will be no charges. There will be no charges for him because Democrats. Am I right?
He was already on the board, and he's a grown man. And it turns out he did not do a single thing wrong.
Didn't do a single thing wrong. Isn't that great? It's good to be a Democrat, isn't it? Yes, it is. Because you get away with, he could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and wouldn't lose a single supporter at CNN or at the Justice Department, as it turns out. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Now, the Columbia University president resigned yesterday, the fourth Ivy League. Let's go to number 13. The fourth Ivy League college president to be forced to resign over the rampant anti-Semitism on their campuses, right? And now the fourth to resign, Manoush Shafiq, Egyptian, British, stepped down yesterday. And that's kind of a big deal, and the four of them that resigned, it matters that Liz McGill from the University of Pennsylvania, Claudine Gay from Harvard, Martha Pollack from Cornell, and now Manoush Shafiq. This is about the rampant anti-Semitism that they allowed on their campuses, where Jews were told to hide their Star of David and not wear a yarmulke because it would be too dangerous for them. Every Nacht was crystal Nacht for months and months on end. And that's completely crazy. And, Democrats run Disney, too. You're familiar with this Disney story? This Disney story is completely nuts. Completely nuts. Turns out that when you get Disney Plus online, the streaming service, right? You go through that pages and pages, and you just click on I agree, right? You click on I agree. And when you say you click on I agree, did you read the whole document? Of course you didn't, because nobody's ever read the whole document in any of these things. It's quite an amazing truth that people sign up for these things online, and I try to do a bare minimum of that myself. But the Disney people they have their lawyers that built some Weasley stuff in there. And it turns out that one family found out the hard way, because a woman went to Disney World, got a meal at Disney World, warned the waiter about their acute allergies. The food was delivered. The woman actually went into shock and died from food poisoning at a Disney restaurant. And the widower, the husband, who survived and his wife died, just amazing stuff. Jeremy Piccolo said his wife died of an allergic reaction after eating at a pub at Disney site. Despite being guaranteed there were no allergens in her food. So he decided to sue Disney, as you might, for all of $50,000, not $50 million, but $50,000. And Disney came back and said, oh no, turns out in 2019, you signed up for Disney Plus. And when you clicked I agree on the Disney Plus app, you signed away all your rights to sue Disney for the rest of your life. Isn't that amazing? So Disney is trying to have the wrongful death lawsuit thrown out because they say that the husband signed on for a 1-month free trial of the company's streaming service, Disney Plus, in 2019. And Disney says, well, I guess you should have read what you clicked on, because you surrendered all your rights to sue Disney over anything. Even if we kill your wife years from now, you can't sue us because you got a 1-month free trial of Disney Plus. And you gave up all your rights. Disney Uberales. What a company that is. Don't they still own ABC? Isn't that an amazing story?
Your Honor, I object!
And why is that, Mr. Reed?
Because it's devastating to my case!
Overruled.
Good call!
Newsmax is reporting this morning that a female U.S. Secret Service agent that was in North Carolina with President Trump yesterday left her post to go breastfeed her baby. Sorry, your Secret Service doing a presidential detail, a former president detail, a presidential candidate detail, and you bring your baby with you and you're breastfeeding? That seems a little out of the ordinary. Call me old-fashioned, but Alana Austin at Newsmax reporting the story. Pretty amazing stuff. You take your baby to work, you're doing a protective detail for the United States Secret Service. Seems a little out of whack. Vice presidential debate hosted by CBS News is now set for October 1st in New York. Tim Walz, of course, and J.D. Vance. And CBS News will moderate. We'll call it moderate. You know, let's maybe we can get to one Ashley Moody soundbite, the Attorney General of Florida, talking about the fact that the Biden administration has allowed in, we know, 99 people on the terror watch list that were nabbed at our southern border that were waved into the country by Joe Biden and Kamala.
Just this week.
Oh, that's
Here's the
Donald
most
Trump.
terrifying news that no one is picking up on, that we finally have an admission from them. They have released, after coming in contact with these people, 199, almost 100, could be more now because this was through 2023, to roam our interior.
To roam our interior. Fellow Romans. Yeah, the Democrat, 99 people on the terror watch list that were nabbed at our southern border. This is why we sell Remember Normal T-shirts and coffee mugs at the Chris Plant store, because it's getting farther and farther away, but we must hold on. We must remember normal at the Chris Plant store.